Welcome back, everyone, to episode 3 of the Zero Build Meta. This is where we break down the current state of Zero Build Fortnite. And yeah, let's just jump right into it. So the first thing that I wanted to talk about today was the spawn rate of weapons, kind of like the spawn rate of ground loot and chests and things like that. I feel like they adjust it, and it would be really great to know like when things go up and when things go down. If anyone knows a website that I can go to and check out like what the current numbers are, that would be awesome as well. I know that people have broken down that data from data mining, and it would be just great to know how often things spawn, because I feel like I get personally DMRs like all the time, hand cannons all the time, and it actually does feel like the sniper went down a little bit. But like, for example, when the hand cannon was first introduced, I felt like I didn't get it at all, and then they adjusted it a little bit, and now it's everywhere. So it's just a little odd to me how certain guns I feel like I get more than others. And to kind of like link in with that discussion, I wanted to talk about the attachments on floor loot, you know, not talking about like going to bunkers and, you know, workbenches and that, and actually adjusting your weapons. I mean the ones that spawn naturally in the RNG, in kind of quotation marks, about how those actually spawn and how I would like to see that improved. So currently, let's just say, for example, if you get a Nemesis AR, that thing will come with a potential attachment of, let's see, like maybe, and I'm just throwing things out there, some of these may not even be possible, but maybe like a muzzle brake, maybe a vertical foregrip, maybe like a 4x sight, things like that. But you know what I've never seen a green Nemesis have is a 1.3x sight, or a red dot sight, or a thermal sight. I've never seen it have a silencer on it. I've never seen it have an extended mag on it. Have I seen an extended mag? Maybe I have. Yeah, I probably have seen extended mag, but there's a few of those before, like the sights especially, they just can't spawn with. And I think it would be better if they could. So if you guys like play the game, you know, long enough, you will notice what rarity will let you spawn with certain things. Another big example right now is I've noticed that it's literally impossible to find a gatekeeper shotgun with an extended mag unless it is purple or above rarity. I have not once in this game seen a blue or green one spawn with a drum mag, and that is the most important attachment for that gun. So I think that it'd be cool if you could just get a little bit more of like an RNG effect to it, where it could be actually kind of any gun, any one attachment, any, you know, blue gun, any two attachments, like any attachment, any, not just like any from like the loot, or I'm sorry, from like this specified pool that they kind of allow for each weapon to have. Then it seems like it's on a per weapon basis too. Like, you know, like I've never picked up a deagle with like a 4x, you know, I've picked up deagles with like a laser sight all the time though. So I think that I would just like to see that adjusted. I don't really currently love how we're doing it. Oh, also, before we leave this topic, another gun that I love a lot is the Ranger pistol. Like, you know, speaking of pistols, it's almost like we can only have one pistol in the game at a time. You know, Deagle went all the way up, and now Ranger pistol is nowhere to be found. And I honestly prefer the Ranger pistol to the other light ammo weapons at the moment. So another big topic that I want to discuss this week, we kind of talked about last week, but let's talk about the other end of the spectrum. So I mentioned how powerful the Cerberus medallion is and how landing at Grim Gate is kind of the meta. It was really funny. So anyone who's watches the stream a lot, we stream most days. I don't want to say every day because it's not every day, but you know, we stream like maybe between 4 to 5 days a week usually. It's just funny to be able to pinpoint times when I change my strategy and you see how it works. Like, you know, people who watch the stream will, you know, who are listening to this right now will know exactly what I'm talking about. But as soon as we stopped landing at Grim Gate every single game, I feel like our games got a lot better and a lot more, not even varied in variety, but just we were able to kind of play the game again. I wasn't even really taking full value of the Cerberus medallion. Like, I feel like I'm good enough with it, you know, but I'm not great. So for me, landing there, it's taking away from the rest of my game. Like, it takes me too long to kill the boss. The times that I do get out with it, I'm not really getting the most value from it, and it's really not impossible to kill the person who has it. So for me, if my goal is to get the Cerberus medallion for late game, landing there off the rip and getting it immediately is not my only option. I've kind of come to realize, mainly because I'm not really that good of a player in terms of like, I can't always land in the hottest spot, the hottest POI, kill everyone in the lobby, kill everyone in the spot, and then, you know, get the most valuable loot. That just isn't really where I am yet. Hopefully someday, of course, but it just isn't where I am right now. So I find it kind of important to be realistic with your own skill level and set your expectations and set your play style to reflect that, so that you can kind of excel for the challenge that you're really prepared for. Whereas if you try to do something that you aren't capable of, it's going to go poorly more times than it won't, and you're just not going to have fun throughout the whole process. I would say when I land at Grimgate every game, I probably end up with the medallion like 20 to 30% of the time, you know, 40 if I'm like doing really well. I would say I land at the top god chest, like the one that's at the very top. Maybe I get that drop a lot. And then I get my own path. I like my path. I have like 3 god chests that I like to hit up, then I'll hit the slurp truck, and then I'll kind of rotate back around the Grimgate. But I'm able to do that over 50% of the time for sure. So it's not that I can't drop there, it's just that I can't get the best. I'm not the best situationally, so when it comes to a bunch of close range kills and a bunch of people in the area and have to worry about 3rd, 4th, 5th parties, that's when I kind of am not at my best. So I've been landing there when it's convenient, but not going out of my way to land there every single game. If you folks are enjoying this, please consider giving it a like. It helps us a ton. Sub if you haven't yet, so you can be notified when we do upload and go live. Like I said, we do go live several days a week, so please consider that. Thank you all so much, really appreciate it. So for the current remainder of the Avatar event, I've been kind of noticing that I've been using bullets more than EMPs, bullet/waterbending. And once the airbending is back, I'm pretty sure I will go back to using EMPs more. It's just right now, when people are flying around without cover, you know, I think that projectiles have a lot more value. Whereas say something like a Warforged AR, it is not the most valuable thing against a car other than just blasting it. You know, if you don't have a direct line of sight and you can't shoot through the windows to actually hit your opponent, then your only real, course of action is to put like a clip, maybe 2 clips into it, depending on how far away they are, kind of blow that thing up and then go from there. So I will be going back to EMPs just to disable cars and just to get people, out of cover and things like that once the airbending and Avatar mythics are kind of out the game. Speaking of which, we had the waterbending mythic before this event started because Korra is in the battle pass. Do we think for sure that this is going to be going away once the Star Wars event occurs? Like, I hope that it does. I think that it might, but I'm just not 100% convinced that it will. So I would like to hear your guys' thoughts. Is waterbending going to go away? We only have a couple days left to speculate, but I'm not 100% sure that it will. So, but I would love to see all 4 of the mythics just gone, please, would be nice. So we had a minor update. Was it 2 weeks ago now? 1 week ago now? I kind of forget. I don't think we talked about it last week. I checked my notes and I didn't see it there. But the TAC AR is back in the game. And I think that guns like this, like when they update the game for like the TAC AR or the drum gun, it just seems very odd. As in, like, they don't give us a huge reason to want to use it. The first few days, I didn't even know the TAC AR used light ammo. I thought it was a medium ammo gun because, it says AR. So that makes me like it a little bit more now that it doesn't use the most like hard to find ammo. I find that medium ammo is so hard to find, especially compared to light ammo. Of course, heavy ammo is like the hardest, but they definitely pace it that way and tier it that way. But some of these like medium update guns, I don't get why Epic does this and puts them in the game. Like say the version 1 and even like the final version of the Enforcer, like what was the point of that gun? Like it never served a function. They put the drum gun back in the game. I feel like it was almost like a Midas kind of theme thing, but like aside from that, like it doesn't serve a function. The only time that I really enjoyed this, I feel like they did it a little bit better in season 1 because the crash pads I thought were a little bit kind of corny at first until I learned how to use them. So crash pads were fine. And then the lock-on pistol was like another random kind of update, like what's this doing in the game? But then at one point we had like the TMNT mythics and then the grapple blade and shockwaves, so like 3 ways for people to run away. And then the lock-on pistol all of a sudden became extremely valuable and had a purpose because people are running all the time and it's very hard to hit those types of targets. So I like the niche items that will help you like, in like 5-10% of the situations. But the TAC AR, man, I've used it like once, maybe, like off the rip when it was the only gun I could find. I mean, the damage output's just too low. That's just all it really is. If the damage output's going to be that, I'm not even the damage output, which yes, I really meant to say the damage number per bullet is just too low because damage output is too low. That's like the next thing that I was gonna say, is that if you're gonna make the damage per bullet so low, you at least have to make the rate of fire high enough to make it worth using, and it just currently isn't. I think it sits at like a 7 or so it's literally just a worse Warforged. The only benefit it has is that it uses the light ammo, but aside from that, I don't know. I mean, it has no kick either, which is nice. Sometimes, we were talking about the random attachments before. I've noticed it's very common to find a green TAC AR with a thermal sight. Now, I will not touch the thermal sight on a Warforged because the kick just doesn't work right for me, in my opinion, for that weapon. But on the TAC, there's next to no kick, so you can use a thermal sight, and I feel like it does work pretty well. So it's usable, and it is a little more usable in some situations, but overall, I would take a Warforged, and while it's in the game, waterbending is far and away the best gun type weapon, All right, hate to be a Debbie Downer here, but let's talk about a couple things that I don't like about the game. And these are super minor, but a couple little lame things. I'm thinking back to the trailer of Chapter 5, Season 1. You guys remember the train and like how it was just so hyped up? Man, like that thing's been such a disappointment, man. Such a disappointment. Now we have like the Apocalypse season that is rumored to be coming up for Season 3. Train's probably gonna get blown up, gonna probably be off the rails or something, you know, probably have train cars randomly thrown about, and we're probably not gonna get anything of it. It'll probably be one of the most randomly hyped yet never realized things that Fortnite has tried to promote. I'm still salty too, if we're gonna talk about that trailer for a moment. I'm still salty about the wall jumping and such, like how they made it seem like you can kind of wall jump on anything in the trailer, like not just like builds and certain structures. Like I thought that you should have been able to like wall climb on like way more. I'm still a little salty about that because it made it seem like, hey, we're gonna improve the movement overall. But really they just put those kind of planks that you can mantle on like what percentage of buildings have those? I would say, you know, 15 at the most, maybe 20 if we're gonna be generous. And of course you can put them on builds, but like people don't even use those in builds. You just build around and you keep, you know, ramping and side jumping and all that good stuff, or you grapple blade up, or you, well, we don't have grapple blade anymore, but you know what I mean. I don't know what the meta is in builds right now. I haven't played since season 1. But yeah, so I don't think that the train and the mantling and all that was hyped. And I know this wasn't in the trailer at all, but on the same note, like Island right now is so lame to me, dude. Island was really cool in Chapter 4, I thought. Island was really cool in Chapter 4, but right now Island is just so mid, you know, especially with snipers and especially with water bending. All it really does is just give one person like a nice little perch. I was gonna say a peak, a perch to just kind of sit up there and beam the rest of the lobby. And I don't know, I don't think that's cool. I think it's pretty whack, and I don't like how Island can sometimes even sit into like 6th or even 7th zone sometimes. You know, sometimes it gets kicked out by like 5th zone, which I like. Let it sit there for 1, fine, whatever, but you barely get anything anymore as a reward. There's a not uncontested, what's the best way? An unlocked, you know, a free to use workbench. Cool, fine, I've used it a few times and it's come in handy. You can cap the point, which is gonna, you know, ping you a person next to never, because no one's ever really nearby the island unless they're on it directly, in which case you're usually fighting with them because it's so small. And then you get like a little bit of loot, you know, you get some heals sometimes. I mean, you always get heals, but sometimes you get the ones you want. Then you get a gun that you might want. You get 3 or 4. They're of good rarity for sure, but there's nothing special. There's not like, you know, the drum gun that you used to get, or what do they call it? It was some kind of laser gun back in the early Chapter 4. I don't remember what I wasn't playing Chapter 4 Season 1 back when. Pulse rifle is what it was. And in Season 2, when I was playing and I would get beamed by that thing, I'd be like, what the hell is this? I have no idea where it even came from. I didn't really understand how the island mechanics worked, like where you could get a mythic from it every time by just capping it, yada yada. Like I basically started going up there at the end of Chapter 4 Season 3 when it was the drum gun, which was an incredibly powerful drum gun. Like you could close the reticle in as small as a, like a, what do they call it? A breacher shotgun? Like a heavy shotgun? Like it would go tiny, the reticle. And then the one after that was an infiltrator pump, which is kind of when they started to like decline a little bit on like what you would get, but at that point you would still get slurp juice, which is the most powerful heal item that I've ever seen in Fortnite. 2 seconds to get everything back, 2 seconds to get 200 HP. Like it was insane. So I would like Island to be a little bit better. Overall, I would say that I kind of want the pacing, like Island is a 4th zone type situation. I want the pacing to overall to feel a little bit more like Chapter 4. I know nostalgia, yada yada, played it, like that's when I was really getting into the game, all that good stuff. I know it's a little too young of a chapter and season to be calling it nostalgia, but for me that's when I was really learning it. But I think the pacing was really good in Chapter 4. You had on the drop, I was just kind of thinking about this earlier, you could get a vault off the drop, and I believe it had a mythic in Chapter 4 Season 3 it had a mythic Havoc, and then in Chapter 4 Season 4 I think it had a mythic Flapjack, which is still a pretty good gun. I mean, some people love that weapon. It's basically like a current drum gun Warforged, 45 bullets. It was relatively powerful, very good for hip firing in close range. Then in Zone 2 you get a guaranteed gold twin mag in Chapter 4 once the I'm sorry, I mentioned in Season 4 once the tower, what do you call them, the forecast towers came out and the bosses came out, because they would drop a guaranteed gold and a slurp every time. It was 2 slurps at first, but then they nerfed it down to 1. So that was in Zone 2. Then Zone 3 had a rarity based combat cache, meaning it would start off in gold rarity, then go to purple, then it would stop at blue. But if you got to it while it was gold, you would get a gold shotgun, which was sick. I think it was a sharp tooth the last time we had that in the game, which was like the best shotgun to have at the time. So I don't know why they ever did away with the rarity thing for combat caches when we did have them in the game. Like, that was how they should have been. But then on top of that, you had, once again, a more impactful island in Zone 4, where right now, all we really have is Zone 2. You get the same forecast tower, but what does it drop right now? It drops next to nothing. I think a DMR and maybe like big pots, you know, like a big pot and a med pack, so if you need to heal up, cool. But at least in Season 1, it dropped a Nemesis, which would have a 1.3x holo sight on it a fair bit of the time, so I would use that a lot. But right now, the tower, I don't even go for if it's not ranked. If it's ranked, I'll go for it because it gives you rank percentage. But if it's not ranked, I have not played tower at all this season. It's not worth it. It gives you a DMR, I think is the purple weapon. DMR, not interested. Then we have pretty much a nonsensical island in Zone 4 with varied, you know, bunkers spread throughout Zone 3. And like the bunkers we've talked about before, you know, quick little, we don't like them right now. You know, I don't like how they're still in zone all the time. I just don't think that's how they should be, but whatever. That's not for me to kind of decide. So I just think the pacing is like a little bit weak overall. So I'm going to give my current ranking of the game / season right now. And I want to clarify, I haven't really clarified this the last 2 weeks, but this is how I'm ranking the season and like how we are. The game of Fortnite for me is always a 10 out of 10 game. It's why I play the game. It's why I've made it my content kind of, you know, goal to be a Fortnite creator. Shout out to Epic. We are a creator code now. We got our creator code last week. So if you guys ever buy anything in the item shop, use creator code AA.Zoey. I have to start saying that more often. I can't believe it took me this long to remember it, but creator code AA.Zoey. So we do love Fortnite. Fortnite for me is always a 10 out of 10 game. So when I say that, I think Fortnite seasons, like the last 2 weeks, I've rated it 6 out of 10. Spoiler alert, this week I'm also giving it a 6 out of 10. I think it's just because I don't think the season is where I would like it to be, and a 10 out of 10 would be the things that we've talked about before. You know, I will let you guys watch the other videos for that. Couple like quick little recap of that. You know, I want to see Slap come back. I think Slap would have helped the lack of stamina that we feel like we have in this current season a lot. That was a problem back in chapter 4, but we had augments and we had Slap all over the place to help us with that. We are using the exact same mechanics that we did to move around the map that we did then, but right now it feels more sluggish because we don't have the same tools available to us. And when they change the mobility again, because you know they're going to, we only have 3.5 weeks left until season 3 comes around. I want the mobility to be good again for once, please. You know, it's been good before. I feel like the best time of chapter 5 with mobility was during the TMNT event. We had drift boards, we had the TMNT mythics, we had shockwaves, and we had grapple blade. That was a lot, yet no one thing was like super overpowered. Right now, airbending is without a doubt, and I don't think I'm being hyperbolic saying this, it is the best movement we've ever had in Fortnite. Let me know if I'm wrong, but for a single item that you hold in your inventory, I would be surprised if there was a better movement. Maybe like one of the grapplers that will like give you redeploy is better, maybe, I'm not sure, but even then you need something to grapple onto, whereas this is just activate and go. So I don't know, I think it's just a little too busted with how it is, and a little too, I mean a lot too busted. So hopefully the movement we get is not as clunky as wings, it's not as short distance limited in the range as the grapple blade was, it's not as broken as airbending, it's a nice in between. I think the best thing that we've gotten so far, so you could only have one movement item in the game overall, and that wasn't, say, shockwaves, because of course those are a consumable. Talking about something that's reusable that you can just have on you, I would say the swords and the kinetic blade, the TMNT reskin of the swords. I feel like those were kind of the most fair. The TMNT one was actually the best because it gave you the double jump as well. The sword was good, but I would forego, well, the sword and the TMNT both had a melee attack. I was gonna say I'd forego the melee attack, which by the way doesn't come into conversation here. I never use the melee. It's all about mobility for what we're talking about here. But I like the TMNT more because it had the double jump associated with it. So, but if we could only be just about the movement itself, I think the swords are fair because it goes off of charges and you can use it to kind of burst in and out of a situation, but you cannot run forever, which I think is the biggest problem with that. So Star Wars update is dropping in a few days. Looking forward to the new weapons and items. If they do add lightsabers again, which they usually do, they often have a double jump, which I think is, once again, I like that. You know, when they have it with the other mythics, that was fun. But what I was thinking about is if it's a little bit maybe better than the TMNT double jump is if we can combine it with Flowberry. I'm kind of interested to see how that will be, because lightsabers plus Flowberry just sounds kind of busted just to even think about. But yeah, just thinking about a little more season 3 coming up, I just hope everything changes, man. I'm not gonna lie. I think the only thing that they've done really well so far in chapter 5 has been maybe the ARs. I feel like the Striker AR, the Nemesis AR, the current Warforged, those are like good, solid, like fair, cool guns. And everything else I think just needs to change. I think the pump needs to be better. I think the SMGs need to be better. The Thunderburst is good. You can leave that where it is. Thunderburst is like a staple gun. I feel like you could leave that for the entirety of chapter 5 and like no one would be mad. It's a good gun. It's fair. It's, you know, easy to use, hard to master, kind of one of those things. So I think that that's a really solid gun. But like, once again, weekly / request, I should say, Epic, please get that sniper rifle out of the game. Or we can get a sniper, bro, but just make it a fair sniper. Bolt action, one shot, no quick scoping, and it shouldn't be able to change the sights to like lower than a 4x, honestly. Like, and I use the thermal, so like this would affect me negatively, but I don't think that you should be able to do that. So that's basically gonna be it for today. Yeah, we've dragged this on long enough. You know, you guys know the drill. Please like, comment, subscribe, all that good stuff. We will be back next week after having had the update from Star Wars for a few days, so we'll have like a nice solid understanding for how that's been going. We'll have some nice footage for that as well. But yeah, as always, thank you all so much. Really appreciate you guys, and we will see you on the next one. Love you all. Catch you later.